Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining me for today's episode. Welcome to you all. Today, we're going to be talking about the top 10 things I think you should consider if you're contemplating divorce. Now, I will note that I'm going to be using the word divorce when I mean it very generally today. You might have other forms of relationships like you're co-parenting with somebody who you're not married to and you're considering leaving that relationship. These things apply to you as well. And I don't mean to leave you out by using the phrase divorce, even though you're not legally married. I will say if you go Google, which I did in preparation for this, what are the top 10 things I should think about if I'm getting divorced or I'm thinking about getting divorced, you're going to get a lot of different lists. So, as in anything in life, right, you should be very cautious who you get your information from, and you should go get as much information as possible as you're contemplating this, because different people's advice can be very, very helpful because it's really being brought to you through different lenses. So for me, this is being brought to you from an attorney, a child advocate, somebody who has represented parents, who does a lot of mediation, who really believes in amicably ending these relationships when there are children so that you can co-parent long term. And so those are the lenses that I'm wearing basically as I bring this to you. I want to tell you to do number one is going to be if there is abuse. Now, in my last episode, or one recently, I think was in the last couple episodes, I have shared the trends going on regarding domestic violence and the things to think about, what those definitions are, what coercive control is. It doesn't necessarily have to be abuse in a way that you would maybe previously have thought about it in terms of somebody who is hitting someone or maybe has gone to jail. There are a lot of different variations of abuse. And I encourage you to go back and listen to that episode if you haven't already. I won't repeat it all here, but I think I read even into the episode, definitions of coercive control, for example, in the Colorado statutes. And there is a very long list of things to consider in that. So you need to think about, what does that abuse look like legally? And if you're in a situation that is abusive, then most people would tell you that you should leave that relationship if it can't be fixed. And I would agree with that. So I think that that is the first thing that you need to consider. If you're in a dangerous situation, there are protection orders available through civil courts or through filing for divorce. You can often get a protection order for yourself and your children, either both you and your children, or one or the other, for the children or for you. And that gives you protections physically, but there are a lot of things to think about whether you think that's a necessary thing to go do. And I definitely suggest that you consult with an attorney who is somebody who specializes in domestic violence. There isn't any kind of licensure or anything like that you have to look for, but look for somebody who is wise about how to handle domestic violence, child abuse, child sexual abuse. These are very serious things that you need to consider, I think, first and foremost. You need to know your income. I usually do it monthly, but it's basically your gross income. So before you take taxes out, and your partner's gross income. And then in Colorado, it's based on overnights with the children. Other states have different rules in terms of how they look at it. Some states do it by number of hours in a day, 12-hour windows, for example. Others do it differently. So make sure you check on your state's laws. But essentially, in Colorado, we look at how many overnights that you have, and then there are different considerations about that. I won't get into a lot of detail about this, but you should look at it online and look at how it's calculated and consider whether or not you will have enough money to survive kind of lifestyle that you expect and want. Now, there are other factors that get considered in spousal maintenance. For example, the length of the marriage, the lifestyle during the marriage. There are a lot of different things to think about, and you can find those statutes online as well that detail in great specifics what to think about around those situations. But just know that it's going to be rougher than you might have expected financially. And this lifestyle of the marriage argument does not mean it, because there's only so much to go around. The court can't make something out of nothing, and they aren't going to, for example, give you a massive house and give your spouse not enough assets to have a home as well. So there's only so much in the pie and we have to divide that up. If you have a lot of debt, there's just only so many ways to split it, and to divide that up. So make sure that you're considering what your financial picture looks like and recognize that it might be rough. Another example would be the marital home. If you want to stay in the marital home, unless you come up with creative settlement options, you might have to go ahead and refinance that. And if you don't have the income to support a loan or somebody to co-sign with you, you won't be able to keep that home no matter what, unless the other party is willing to work with you to stay on the loan. If that other party is the person who's holding the loan or is on with you, there is not a way that the court can say that that person has to stay on the loan. They just would not, they would have the house be sold first. I suppose there might be some possible considerations where they might, I'd say, for example, like let's say there's a special needs child or something like that. There might be some extreme situations where the court might order something different than exactly having to go sell it in that situation. But generally, as you're thinking about this, you should think about, what does it look like for me to have half of everything, and whether I can survive based on the alimony / maintenance and child support that I will get. And if you can't do that, then you just need, if you can't survive in the way that you want to look, you need to think about what that means. Does that mean you're going to, you're going to go get a different job, or what is it you're going to do? And that brings us to my fifth top 10 thing for you to think about is this. What does it mean to your day-to-day life if you get divorced? A big one here is that you both will be assigned an income. Unless you have children who are underneath the age that requires you to work, and that varies state to state. In Colorado, it's under 2 years old. But if you've got children if all of your children are over 2 years old, then you will be required to be imputed or assigned an income on the child support and spousal maintenance worksheets. And that means that we're not going to consider that you didn't work in the past. Who is your team? Who is going to be your team? If you're going to get divorced, you need to start thinking about, who are the family, friends, advisors I need. You should start talking to lawyers early. Look around, see if you're going to use a lawyer. If you're not going to use a lawyer, or even if you are, you can go look at the judicial websites in your state and look for family law forms in the state in which you live. Colorado has really nice timelines, for example, about how this works and what to consider. It has all the forms available online so that you can evaluate yourself kind of what is happening in your state and what you need to expect. If you don't have a therapist, or you think you could use some mental health help, look for those kind of people. And you want to do this well in advance so that you're ready. If you think you're going to use a lawyer, you might want to contact that lawyer ahead of time and or interview various lawyers and then choose one. And then you will have the ability to ask that person even before you file, or the other party files. You can ask that person for some guidance. For example, if you are somebody who is in a coercive controlling situation, or a situation that has some level of domestic violence, if you are safe, and I very much put a caveat that if you are not safe, you need to get safe or leave. But if you are safe in that environment, you need to be preparing evidence to be able to show what you are going through. That is the best way to be able to prove that there is coercive control going on or other abuse. Now, the courts are trying very, very hard to recognize these things, even when there isn't objective proof of this having gone on. But if you have the ability and time, as you're putting your team together, you should start looking for things and making records of things and coming up with the evidence that you need to make your case as strong as possible. That might involve, depending where you live and depending on laws, it might involve recording things. It might involve getting copies of documents, things like that. So you should consult, if you're in that situation, with an attorney in your state to make sure you're doing it well. But even if you don't have that situation, you still want to be putting together, your people who can be your team. And that should include somebody who I think walks with you through this process. You will save a lot of money if you're hiring an attorney, if you don't use that attorney as your therapist or your sounding board, or at least you try to limit that, you will be better off if you hire a therapist and you bring along a friend who can help you process through, help you with documents and things like that.